movies. And in my experience for the past year and a half, this was the only movie that was as heated as it was. And so I don't really believe that there was any deadlock or any difficult issues. But for this particular film, it really was about the racist dialogue that was so-called portrayed in the film. But to answer your case, I think it really did color sort of our discussions.
Good evening. My name is Sarah. I'm from Tembusu College. To further refine my fellow undergraduates' question, I'd like to ask, how does MDA actually decide whether a complaint warrants consideration or is even representative of public opinion? Or does the MDA just accept any complaint without differentiation?
Is there anybody from MDA here? I invited MDA to join us this evening, but nobody here, right? So
maybe I just have a footnote.
Okay, what's your second question?
The other question is very simple. My friend wanted to ask Ken Kwek if there is going to be a DVD release for the movie.
But wait. But if I'm not wrong, Ken, videos don't have a R21 classification, right?
On DVDs? Yes, they are. They are R21.
Okay. So you will.
I'll just take that question very quickly. We won't be. As of now, there are no plans to release a DVD, but in keeping with the online world that is creeping inevitably upon us, as Arun suggests, we will be probably releasing the film uncut and unedited sometime in the middle of this year to global audiences. So look out for it.
Online, there's nobody here from MDA, but Arun has volunteered to answer on their behalf.
No. No, I am not answering on behalf of MDA, but because I study this censorship, the government has a policy of not only on these films, but even on cyberspace when there are websites or blogs which have certain kinds of expressions and that is offensive. You can make a police report and it may be just one person, they will act. Now this is why it is very interesting when they say community reaction. I actually did a little bit of digging because it claims to represent my own community, the Singaporean Indian community. How many people were outraged by the trailer? From what I know, and this is where I think the panel should have asked these questions, was there a widespread reaction to this, or was the complaint made by one or two people, persistently perhaps, very vigorously perhaps, but how representative is it really? And we know that there are certain things where the moment it comes out, there are a few hundred people react to that. Look at Amy Chong as an example for those of you who had followed. Within hours, there was a very widespread reaction to that. Now, you can claim that is community reaction. When one or two people take umbrage, and I mean, rightfully so, does it really represent community? So sometimes the way the government is setting itself up, I think is not very helpful either to itself or to the community or to the deliberation.
Let me ask Hannah and Walter whether they want to add anything on this. Do you know how many people from the Indian community complained against the trailer? Was this information provided to the panel or to the committee?
To my understanding, again, we really can't divulge the details, but it wasn't a particular outrage, nor was it, I think, measured in volume. Because I was new, it seemed that we were just basically taking cues from MDA, that these complaints were to be taken into consideration, and that was why we were called for a meeting. Yeah.
There were actually two waves of complaints. The first, after it became public that it was going to the appeal committee, there were a number of complaints, not many. After we'd met the first time, there came a second, stronger wave, which seemed to me to be concerted, that somebody had gone around whipping up prejudice. And this was one of the reasons why I was extremely unhappy with the process, because it seemed to me that there were some people who were deliberately agitating the community and making them outraged without seeing the thing.
Okay.
So it wasn't isolated complaints, but it wasn't a gigantic number either. We're talking about less than 24.
Actually, I tried to, I must apologize to Arun. He's not my first choice this evening. I wanted somebody who is more entrenched in the Indian community, so I invited the president of the Singapore Indian Association, my good friend Kasava Panit, but he's honeymooning with his wife in Japan. Then I invited the editor of Tamil Murasu.
Oh, I'm the third choice.
And yeah. And then, and I thought the editor of Tamil Murasu would have his pulse on the Indian community, but he's not available. So actually Arun's the third choice. And I don't know how...
I'm glad at least you recognize me as an Indian.
Actually, you're so liberal, I don't know whether you represent the Indian community.
Prof,
but seriously,
I think this is the point
Arun,
to say there are so many people in the Indian community who would not have been offended. And this is why, instead of a knee-jerk reaction, then the government should have consulted some other Indian people who have, know the pulse. And I know the list of the people on the consultative panel. I don't want to go any further, but I think there are some deliberate measures when such a thing happens. In fact, I used to be, thanks to Prof. Koh, I used to be on the Films Appeals Committee for about 8 years when our collective boss was the chairman of the board. And I can tell you there were a number of instances where practically everyone agrees it is okay, but then one particular group, which is a very powerful group, comes and makes the point, well, it would not be good. Exactly what Professor Walter Woon was saying. We can take it, but they won't take it. But who they are, they can't identify. And I've been through this several times, so I'm not very convinced about this process.
Okay, hello, I'm Ninjan from Tembusu College. I have two questions. One is, how should the vocal minorities' views be respected in the case of sacrificing the majority's right to view certain things? And the second question may be directed to Ken, because I think the MDA banning of the film actually makes the film more controversial, and then banning it actually makes it more popular in a way, and actually it makes us have the forum discussion today. So do you think banning it actually serves in purpose and like a blessing in disguise in a way? Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for sharing. I'm Xin Tian, and this question actually goes to Ms. Hannah, but anyone who is interested to share your opinion. So according to you and others who decide if a movie should be passed or not, so are you solely based on what you think is appropriate, or you're trying to thinking for the broader community that you are representing? And yeah, just interested in this. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, to repeat your question.
Sure. So I'm just asking for Ms. Hannah and others, when they decide if a movie should be passed, were they solely based on what they think of the movie, or they're trying to think from the point of view of the community they are representing? And in that case, were you trying to impose what the community is thinking on them instead of
what you think?
I
I will ask Hannah and Walter both to answer your question. Also to answer the question about the vocal minority versus the majority. And then I'll ask Ken to answer your first question, whether the banning and subsequent unbanning of the film actually works to its advantage. Yeah, Ken, you want to go first?
Well, for sure it works to the advantage of the film, but not without a great deal of discomfort and a lot of months of going through an incredibly intricate and often confusing and sometimes even unclear process. If I could engineer the kind of publicity that this film got because of the ban, I would. But like I say, I did not set out to make this. I did not set out to make a film to ruffle feathers for the sake of it. I knew